Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming today. Father McHugh, thank you for the invocation and the kind words. Congresswoman Esty, thank you for your recognition of me and your continued work on behalf of veterans. I know you do an awful lot of work for them. Sherry did a terrific job putting this together. She was fun to work with, a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I'd also like to thank the Honor Guard, the VFW, and the American Legion. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome my family, Kathleen, Mary Margaret, Kevin, Jen, and Sir William. Also my sister Jean and her husband, Colonel John Grocky, brothers Tom and Joe and their spouses Sue and Marlene. It's also very special to have Aunt Nikki and Aunt Stella here today. They had a long trip. Paul and Alan, thank you for being the appointment on bringing the Toscanios here. I'd also like to welcome all of the Zawackis, Grockis, Rileys, Joneses, veterans in attendance, and all of my good friends. I'd like to also recognize at this time 9/11 Ground Zero firefighter Brian Jones for his valiant effort in fighting the blazing inferno, and he was there. So Brian, I want to say a few words about Larry Register, who was our platoon sergeant in Vietnam. He lives in Alabama, was unable to make it here because of some of the injuries you'll hear about in this. When I first got to Vietnam, I got into his squad, and he gave me the nickname Yamaha because he saw my name Zawacki, Zawacki, and he said, "I'm not dealing with your Yamaha." So from then on, for a whole year, I was Yamaha. He was my squad and platoon leader in Vietnam. He was 6'4", mean, lean fighting machine. He was the real deal that Rambo was modeled after. He became a Sergeant E6 in less than a year. He was captured by the Viet Cong and tortured. He escaped, gathered the squad of Carter, Murphy, Stanley, Smitty, and me to return to the captive site and ensure there would be peace in the future. Unfortunately, Reg could not make it today, but he's still hurting from those wounds. In the 1980s, I bought a Toyota. Many of the World War II vets were not happy with me because of the Japanese car. I didn't get it. The war was over 40 years ago. I just didn't get it. Well, 2 years ago, my next door neighbor Keith backpacked through Asia after graduating from college. On his list of countries visited was Vietnam. When he returned home, I spoke with him. I said, "Keith, when you traveled through Vietnam, were you worried about being taken prisoner?" He looked at me strangely. This is just a couple of years ago. At that moment, I understood the feelings of the World War II vets and their memories. The battles in the war live with a veteran every day, even 40, 50 years later. What's really behind the medals? It's a year in the jungle with great friends in the prestigious 1st Air Cav Division. I was only 18 years old. It was hot, mosquitoes, giant ants with teeth, wild, angry, charging water buffalo, wild boars, pythons slithering by as we slept on the ground every night, blood-sucking leeches, no bathing, 70-pound backpacks, booby traps everywhere, snipers, firefights, poison punji sticks, major battles, the Tet Offensive and the Battle of Hue, Viet Cong infested tunnels and caves, which we had to go in, waterboarding, point man, squad leader, platoon sergeant, C4 expert, helicopters, helicopter gunships, U.S. fighter jets flying and shooting at treetop level, B-52 bombings, napalm, search and destroy missions, U.S. soldiers killed and wounded, mothers writing letters to me asking for details about their son's death, soaked for a month in the monsoon season, M16 rifles jamming in firefights, riding on the skids of helicopters at 150 miles per hour, seeing U.S. soldiers shooting themselves in the foot to get out of the miserable jungle, body parts everywhere, being in a helicopter crash, shot, stabbed, malaria, Agent Orange, and cancer. That's what's behind all of those medals. One other thought. Larry Register, Carter, Murphy, and I were on an LRP, which is a long-range patrol. It's where you're dropped off by a helicopter in the middle of nowhere for a week. You're out there for a week. We hid in the bushes and observed enemy movements and called in artillery and airstrikes. During the night, we would rotate 3 asleep and 1 on guard. I was asleep one night, and I was somewhat awakened by music. Being half asleep, I thought, wow, they have a drive-in movie in Vietnam in the jungle. I quickly fully woke up and realized that a company of 100 Viet Cong were walking past us less than 4 feet away from where we were in the bushes. One of the Viet Cong had a transistor radio playing music. We were very lucky to be undetected. I also was a volunteer on 9/11 at Ground Zero and experienced the horrific devastation and the toxic air. War is hell, and that is some of what is behind these medals. Thank you.